All right, we are streaming. If you're watching this on playback, welcome to the live stream. Hope you don't have any internet problems. Seems like all I ever have are technical problems anymore. But I think I've been proactive tonight. Let's hope that that works out. We have Paigey on the live stream, and we are watching the chat here.
Welcome.
Let me go ahead and turn the intro picture off. All right, guys. Normally, we discuss multiple shows. You know, we'll do a little Legends here at the beginning. Might talk a little Supergirl, a little Black Lightning or Arrow. But this video, or this stream, we're going to be talking about Run, Iris, Run. I can already see the comments now. Okay, so Run, Iris, Run is an episode that a lot of people in our streams previously and on our videos, I think Paige and I both had a lot of people, you know, that watch our content who were not excited about this episode at all. Right? I mean, kind of an understatement, maybe. What do you think?
I think I have to agree with that one. Yeah, I don't think the vast majority of people were necessarily too enthusiastic about what was going on in this episode before it happened, obviously.
And we knew it was going to happen for a while. I mean, they've been teasing this for, you know, a couple months now. So this episode had me extremely worried. Why were you worried? Why were you... Trash episode. Giovanni coming in savage from the get. Let's see. I'm making sure. My connection looks pretty good. So if you get a little lag, guys, or if it drops off, just refresh the page. I don't know what's going on with that. It's green for me, so we'll just go with that. Let me close out this window here. Maybe that'll help a little bit. Sam with the $5 super chat. Do you think Sarah will be able to communicate with her sister Laurel Earth 1 if she can bear the death totem? That's a... I didn't think about that. That's a good point, though. It's quite possible. What do you think, Paigey? Does that seem like a possibility to you?
Yeah, I saw people bring it up, and I was like, possibly, but like, I don't know if they would. It'd be a surprise because usually they always announce this stuff because they want people watching the episodes. So, the fact they haven't announced it yet makes me think that they probably won't do it.
Yeah. So,
because even I think.
Go ahead.
Did they announce it last season that Katie Cassidy was appearing in the Legends season 2 finale? Because remember she shows up. I think they announced that to get people watching. So I think if she was going to appear with the Death Totem stuff, I think they would have already announced it because they would have already filmed it. But I don't know. It could be like one of those surprise appearances that she shows up. I have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. So Braden says it wasn't as good as Flash Time, but it wasn't trash. Okay. So, Sam, that's a good thing. That's a good point. I actually have my Legends review is up. I'm just waiting for the yellow icon to go away so I can make it public. Still waiting. So, we'll see. It's been uploaded since 5 o'clock today. All right, so let's talk about Run, Iris, Run. So, I want to point out that a lot of people were upset that Barry lost his speed again. But, guys, Barry loses his speed like one episode a season, right? I mean, what do you think about that, Paigey? You think Barry loses his speed?
I backed out of the thing.
Oh, I wonder what that noise was. No, yeah. I said that Barry loses his speed at least one episode a season, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it, anyway.
Yeah, what was... Yeah, when was the time he lost in season 1? What happened there? I can't remember. I remember the season 2 one, then obviously last season. I can't really remember the season 1 one.
I feel like it happens at least once a season, though. You know, at least since season 2.
Yeah, I'm sure it happened in season 1. I just can't necessarily remember specifically when it happened. But yeah, I think they just want that that odds. It almost makes Barry like a fish out of water. Like he doesn't know what to do without his speed. Just like puts Barry back to reality, I guess. Yeah, I don't necessarily know what that do so often, but
I'll say Discord feels like it's messing up tonight. It's really weird. Okay, so
yeah, I don't know.
I want to point something out, and we talked about this off stream. writer for this episode, Eric Wallace is his name, has never written an episode of any DC TV shows. I think he wrote one episode of Eureka, which is the show from Sci-Fi Network. It's not on anymore. But he's been a producer pretty much predominantly for everything. And so it was his first time writing an episode. And the director for this episode, it was his first time directing anything. He's an editor. So both people for this episode were first timers. The people in charge of this episode were both first timers. So I don't know if you want to take that into account while we're talking about it. But it's just odd to me that they would put two people in these positions for their first time. Don't you, Paigey? Do you feel the same way about that? I think it's a little strange.
It is. Like, to be completely honest, it is a bit strange. Like, usually you'd give first time writers something in the beginning half, like a filler episode then, where it's not necessarily that vital to the beginning of the season, or they would like co-write
Right.
or something. But the fact that like these two have come in, like the writer and the director and stuff, in episode where like they're taking a lot of stuff from the back, like from the past in the show, and trying to put it into this episode, like how Iris was feeling in the past while trying to push her story forward at the same time. And also, as I said, I think I said to you on off stream, and I also mentioned on Twitter and in my video, like there was a lot of stuff going on in this episode. And for someone that's not necessarily that familiar with not only just like writing in general, but writing for the Flash, they're going to find it a very hard job. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons, actually it's probably a big reason, that there was big issues with this episode.
Right.
He had a lot on his plate.
Yeah. Mike Horan says $2 super chat. Thank you, Mike. He says, let down they didn't mention the purple lightning. So we'll go ahead and jump to that. I have notes, guys. Look, I have notes. We'll jump to that, though. That's somewhere in the middle. But we'll go ahead and talk about that. CJ, we've only been live for about like 6 minutes. So the lightning color. So here's my thing. They've had primarily 3 major colors of lightning on the Flash. You've had the normal yellow or gold lightning that Barry has, the red lightning that Reverse Flash has, and the blue lightning / white lightning ish, I guess Savitar's suit had, and then Zoom's powers, for the trajectory formula that was making them, burn up and disintegrate and all that stuff. They've explained the lightning colors before in the past. So they brought this up. This was something they've talked about. The only one they didn't explain was Reverse Flash's lightning color. I always assumed it's because they were saving that in case they decide to introduce the negative Speed Force. That was, my only thing. But they've tried to explain lightning colors in the past. We had the purple / pink lightning with Accelerated Man. And they didn't mention it in this episode. And somebody else mentioned earlier, maybe it's because they made that decision in post-production. The color of her lightning. What do you think? Do you think that was a post-production decision?
Well, from what I heard, the lightning was chosen because Candace Patton, who obviously plays Iris, her favorite color is purple.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what I heard, and I was like, well, that's a strange decision. But just from like, if I was just watching the show and I saw the purple lightning, my thoughts would have been, it's just based off her suit, because her suit would have looked a bit weird if it was like, orange coming off it, or like a yellow,
right?
Like one of those colors. It wouldn't have looked as good. So they went with the purple-y color, and that's because it would look more aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, that's, I guess, the reason they might have gone with it. But someone's told me that it could have been because Candace Patton's favorite color is purple. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not.
See if the lag clears itself up. We'll get Paigey back in a second. Possibly. Yeah, it was... I don't know what to explain. Yeah, I mean, I'm just sitting here. Nothing has changed. Hopefully it clears back. You got me, Paigey? You back? Are we back? Are we not back? Let me disconnect and reconnect. See if that fixes it. Are we back?
I'm back. I can hear you. It's all good.
Professional live stream. Professional podcasting. at its finest. It's almost like a tradition now. It's almost a
Yeah,
tradition.
the stream has to go down once.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell people to refresh.
At least once.
Yeah. Hopefully not more. Refresh. I don't know what's going on. I'm still getting some issues here, so I don't know. I have no idea. It's just me. YouTube doesn't like me. That's all I can say. They just do not like me. Okay, so the whole purple lightning thing, jumping back onto that. If it was her choice, I think it's very evident by the color of the costume that they weren't going to go with yellow, right? I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think it was post. I think they knew that beforehand. So here's my thing. If you're not going to explain why she has purple lightning, at least mention it. Nobody in the episode even mentioned it, unless I totally missed it.
Well, that's what makes me think that like it was like an afterthought, that it wasn't meant to be like they didn't go into the episode saying, okay, well, Iris is going to have purple lightning. That's going to be like one of the changes that she has when she's a speedster. It almost seems like they filmed the episode and they're in the VFX thing. It's like, oh, this orange and yellow lightning doesn't look good. What color could we go for? Oh, well, she's got a bit of a purple suit. Same lighting that Accelerated Man had, maybe a bit different.
Mm-hmm. See, Dominating Impulse says he thinks it was smart not to mention it.
I think it's stupid because they have eyes. They can see the light.
I don't know. It felt lazy to me. It just felt lazy to me. Like, if you're not going to explain it, at least point it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the thing is, I don't think, from what I remember, Cisco didn't see Accelerated Man. I'm pretty sure he sped off before he arrived there in that episode. So he wouldn't have seen it. He couldn't have said, oh, I've seen that lightning before. This lightning should be like, well, this is different. Like, if they were going to go on about the blue lightning in season 2, surely they would bring up the purple lightning and go, oh, that looks very different. What does that mean?
Yeah, but
so
here's another thing.
Smart thing to leave it out.
I think that they also didn't talk about it is because they never plan on using that again for her. Like, I think that it was like, we're never going to use it again, so why even bring it up? But I still feel like, as a fan of the show and a fan of how they explain things, it felt like Supergirl to me. And a lot of stuff in this episode felt like Supergirl. Let me rephrase that. Supergirl season 1. Because Supergirl has become much better now.
Before you trigger.
Yeah. Supergirl season 1. It says the more reason, and Dominating says the more reason pointing it out draws to stating the obvious. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that. I think it was kind of silly as a show that has pointed out colors of lightning in the past that somebody wouldn't say, cool, you got purple lightning. Done. That would have been enough for me. I would have been okay with that. But they just...
Yeah.
The fact that no one mentioned it seems really stupid to me, with all these people in Star Labs that are science nerds, that they wouldn't bring it out. So...
Yeah, or find it like... Or be curious about it.
Right.
Like, science, like a lot of it is about curiosity. Like, exploring different things. So the fact that they would see purple lightning and they would have known, like, Zoom's blue lightning meant that he was like, tainted Speed Force, if you want to call it that. Wouldn't they be like, oh, what the hell? If blue meant that, what does purple mean? You know, just general curiosity.
Yeah.
So
we're gonna talk about Ralph in a moment. Go ahead.
I think it's an afterthought. Honestly, if I had to put money on like why it was purple, I think it's just an afterthought. Like, they filmed the episode, and in VFX they've gone, we'll just make it purple because it looks better than orange.
Maybe they tried it with the yellow and they're like, this purple jacket, it doesn't look good with that. So we change it to yellow. I mean, that would explain it. I will say this, though. I think all the VFX and the CGI in this episode were pretty strong considering what we've had in the past. There was only one scene towards the end where I think it looked a little weird. But I think they paid a lot of attention to Iris as a speedster. And I have to give them props for actually creating a CGI visual effects Iris for running fast. Because that's not cheap. So... They might have just used like Jesse's model and put Iris's hair.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that's why they had Iris's hair like Jesse has hers, and why it was the same mask and everything.
Yeah.
So
you know what? That is. Oh, why did you ruin that for me? I was so excited that they did that. Now I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to give them credit for that.
I've used the sculpt of Jesse and then just changed everything around to make it look like Iris. I think that's what it is.
Darn it. Okay.
It's really like there was only like one close-up CGI Iris, and that's when she's like running through Central City, from what I remember. That's like the only close-up CGI, and then I guess when she's running on the treadmill.
Right. Yeah. But for those, they could have easily just like put her face on another body you know?
Yeah.
I guess that'd be cheaper than making a whole CGI body. Okay, so we jumped ahead to that one. That's fine. It doesn't really matter. Let's go back to what I had at the beginning of my notes and talk about the 2 new metahumans and my problems with both of them, okay? I have problems with both of these characters. So we met Melting Point, who I think was called Melting Pot in some interviews or articles, because...
In all the promo material leading up to the episode, it was Melting Pot. So in my review, I was calling him Melting Pot because I just thought, okay, well, they must have, Cisco must have just called him Melting Pot at the end of the episode and I've missed it. Because in everything, it was Melting Pot. Now it's been changed to Melting Point. I've been corrected. I'm like, well, blame the people that were hyping up the episode.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just, it is whatever. I like Melting Point better as a name anyway, but that's just me.
Yeah, I was wondering, Melting Pot, like, what is this, like, cultural diversity episode? That's...
Yeah. Let's see. Chessmaster 1212 with a 199 super chat. Thank you so much. Why didn't Wally take the totem back? You mean, wait, take Vic's totem back?
Vixen's.
Oh, it was one word. I'm like, what is that? I don't know why. Legends of Tomorrow sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense. When you guys see my review of Legends from this week, you're probably going to be a little bit upset with me because I wasn't too fond of the episode. But yeah, I don't really know why. But thank you for the super chat, Chessmaster. It'll be something to think about. I'll try and bring it up in my next video for Legends because we're going to have time to fill in when we get to... When I get to the end of the video, we talk about what's going on with some of these other shows during the month of March. So that'll be something worth talking about in another video. So Melting Point. Let me tell you why this character's powers did not make any sense in this episode. Okay? The premise of him being able to swap DNA is a very cool power. Totally on board with that, okay? Except, even after Caitlin explained his power and how we saw it in the episode, it didn't really add up. So when Barry and Iris swap powers, they are both touching him at the same time, which leads into the whole DNA swap thing. However, at the bank, he touches the guy with the fire powers and then touches the other guy, Jacob. So how did the guy with fire powers get the DNA from Jacob? He wasn't touching him at the same time. He touched them at 2 different times. So is this guy swap DNA or does he store meta powers and then just give them to the next person he touches?
Yeah, that's...
It's 2 different things. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. And even then, like, if he's swapping DNA, like, what happens with, like, if he's just touching 2 normal people? What happens there?
Right. And another thing is...
Like, if one of them's, like...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, if one of them is, like, really good at throwing a football, does, like, the other person become really good at throwing a football and the other person loses that ability? Like... Like, what's the proper explanation of the powers?
And see,
it was a bit confusing.
Yeah, some people says he stores the meta powers. No. That is not how his powers are explained in the previews. It's not how it was explained in this episode. They literally said he swaps the DNA. You cannot do both of them. So that's... Am I missing something here? Are you following me on this, Paigey, or is it just me?
I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just and
another thing is, how would he even know he has these powers? How did he find this out?
Yeah, like, is he going around touching metas all the time? Like,
right.
How many metas is he coming across?
And we barely knew anything about him. At the beginning of the episode, it seemed like he was just trying to do the right thing. He was a good guy trying to talk somebody out of doing something. And at the end of the episode, he makes it seem like he's got some religious reason for why he's doing it. 2 completely different things.
Oh, God.
It just doesn't... Cool powers. Either one of them is cool. If he was a backup cloud USB for powers and he could give them to somebody else, I'm okay with that. If he swaps DNA, I'm okay with that. But it's either one or the other. It's not both. It doesn't work that way. So... Anyway, cool character. Glad he's sticking around. Glad he wasn't just a 1 episode get rid of type character, because I liked him. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen to him, because he just kind of, I don't know, weirded me out a little bit. So, and then we have the fire guy. Let's talk about this person, because this one's even worse than Melting Point. So Jacob Birch gets these fire powers from an OG meta who got his powers way back during the original dark matter explosion. And somehow, 2 days later, he's wearing the same clothes he had on at the bank, exact same clothes that he had on the bank. And he is able to create fire and his clothes don't burn. We're talking about fire that was able to burn through reinforced steel. Thick.
What was it, 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit?
Okay, yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a second too. So his clothes don't burn. He should have been like Naked Fire Guy. That's what he should have been, because there's no way he was making that much heat. You know what I mean? And not burning up clothes. On top of that, if he was generating that much heat, you couldn't be within like 10 feet of him, at the least. Because anything even close by that could catch on fire would ignite. Also, the fact that he was burning the ground underneath of him and it never melted. If it can melt reinforced steel, it would have left big gaping holes in that cement. There's just no way that would have... It's like, what is going on here? Too much. Not only that, but the guy playing him, Max Adler from Glee, everyone was excited about this Glee character coming on to The Flash. And he barely had anything to do with the episode. Sam gave a $5 super chat. He goes, how was your comment section, Paigey? Abused. Thought the episode wasn't terrible because temporary so far. Give us a hint of Iris as a speedster. Okay, well, okay, so I want to jump into something I like then, and we'll let Paigey, because apparently he saw your comment section, which I haven't seen yet. But was it bad? Was it landmines? Were you dodging?
No, you just get some stupid. It's mostly like people in agreement with me, which I was expecting, because I was hoping that like the larger population, the people that watched the episode, would have noticed that it was poor. But there is people.
And somebody says it seems like the fire guy was a knockoff of Firestorm. That's probably because they use the same graphics. The fire out of the hands thing, it's probably just because that they already had that. Ren says, this is why you have to suspend disbelief with superpowers or come up with some hand wave explanation. Okay, so do I believe that somebody could have the power to generate fire? Yes, I can suspend that disbelief. Do I believe that magically makes their clothes impervious to flame? No, I'm sorry. I mean, I get what you're saying. For me, that's silly. People have costumes specifically for reasons, which is like, what about people's clothes catching on fire when they're running fast? Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. There's a continuity problem there, which is why the Flash has to wear the suit he has to wear because of the speeds he's going. But yet, it only matters sometimes. It doesn't matter every time. So I get what you're saying, and to some degree, I agree with you. But in this point, I feel like I just can't. I can't let it go. All right. With that being said, let's move into something I did like. I thought Iris as a speedster in this episode was fun. I didn't have a problem with that. I think that her learning curve was okay. I mean, there was a few things where it was like she kind of caught on a little bit too fast, but I thought like when she was in the building and the building was on fire and she couldn't phase, like if she would have phased through the wood, we'd be having a totally different conversation right now. But the fact that she wasn't able to do that tells me that I feel like they at least didn't make her jump hurdles that any other person has had to jump in the past. Right? I mean, do you agree with me or disagree with me on that? Paigey.
The only issue I have with that was that they actually sent her out on her own. I couldn't believe that. I was like, because she wasn't going to go out originally. It was going to be Killer Frost and Cisco. We're going to go there and do it. And I was like, okay, well, fair enough. And the reason they weren't going to do it is like, oh, we didn't have a Flash. I was like, okay, well then Iris will go with you, and then it could just be you three out.
Yeah.
You know, and Ralph, I guess, if he wanted to go, if he didn't want to be like a whinger. But then it was just her that went out. I was like, well, where'd that logic go? Like, it would have been, you know, Cisco, Kaylin, and Barry that would usually go out in that case, but then it was Iris that went out, and that confused me. I was like, "That's really stupid."
Even Harvester of Sorrow says, "Why didn't they use Killer Frost? They should have. It was a fire."
Or yeah, like where was the logic there? Because they were going to go out originally, but then they just sent out Iris on her own without them.
And what did Iris really have to prove in that context? Because Barry goes out with the team all the time. It's very rarely
Barry's
does
like-
Barry go out by himself on his own unless he's doing something by himself.
Yeah, unless like he's like walking by himself and he sees something and then he does his Flash stuff, or if he's like Cisco and Caitlin are elsewhere. You know, that was the weird thing. But like her in the building, I was fine with. Like her actually using her powers, I don't think I really had any issues with it. It was really the stuff around her using her powers that wasn't due to Iris. It was like, you know, fireproof clothes that shouldn't have been fireproof.
Right.
And the logic that she just went on her own when in the past they would never do that.
By the way, thank you for the super chat, Dominating Impulse. And in case you guys didn't know, I think I've shouted him out a few times, but now that it's up on the screen so you guys can see it, he does DC and Marvel content as well. So give him a check, check out his channel. If you like his content, make sure you subscribe to him. Fire melts ice. Well, it's regular fire, and Killer Frost doesn't just generate cold. She actually absorbs energy. Because they showed that in season 3, I think, when she went to her mother's and they explained that it's not just making things cold. She literally draws it. It's more like the comic book version of her powers.
And she did it in when season 2 when she kisses Firestorm.
Yeah, and they were going to use her to cool down a nuclear reaction. So I think a fire in a building would have been fine. I get what you're saying, Cody, but it's not just, she doesn't just have ice powers.
It's not like she's shooting ice at fire where it's going to melt. It's different.
All right. Let's see. Where do I want to go from here? I don't know. Where do we jump from that? Anyway, going back to Iris, let's talk about her motivations because that was a little gray for me in this episode. So, Supergirl comes back in April. So Iris's motivations to me didn't really make much sense this episode. And this is me giving credit to Iris. I never once this entire season felt like Iris was a victim, that she was scared of anything, that she was afraid of dealing with any problems head on. I always thought of Iris as being someone that the writers have made a very empowered character since the beginning of the season. She spent 6 months running the team while Barry was gone, and she's continued to be the leader of the team since the beginning of the season. So why all of a sudden does she not feel good enough? Was it really hinging on Ralph's comment? Because that's really the only hint we got that she was feeling that way until we get to the end of the episode and she starts to unload all this baggage. Now, I get it if this was something that was like teased, maybe a few episodes ago, she says, oh my gosh, I can't do this. It's overwhelming or something like that. We never had any of that, ever. Iris has been very empowered this season. I don't know about you guys in the chat, but I feel like Iris is a character who did not need some sort of superhero redemption arc. Am I crazy with that? Or, do you disagree with that, Paigey? Because I felt like there was no reason for her to feel that way at all.
I brought the thing I brought up in my review, like I think the wording I used or like what I said was there was like no setup for this episode in regards to Iris being scared or feeling weak or anything like that. Like in previous seasons, like at the end of back half of season 3, there was obviously that because she was like, oh, well, I'm going to die. And then she got over that hurdle because she was like, well, if it gets to that point, I'm going to accept my fate.
Right.
Remember? That was like a thing in the back half of
it changed her entire character.
Where she was scared.
Right.
Yeah, that was what like changed her and pushed her into the season 4 role, which arguably I'm not the biggest fan of. And I think the large majority of the people that watch the show aren't necessarily the biggest fan of it. But there was nothing in this season that led up to this episode.
Right.
Like if it was referring back to all the events in season 3 and it was like you got little hints of it in this season, then I might give it a pass. But there was literally no setup for it. Like, and usually when they do things in these, not specifically just the Flash, but just TV in general, if they're gonna do, is my mic on the fritz or something?
No, not for me. I can hear you fine.
Someone's just trolling in the chat, I guess. Usually on any TV show, they'll like, in like 2 to 3, maybe 4 episodes at the most leading up to that episode where they're gonna deal with it, they'll pull it out of the woodwork and they'll, sprinkle it in a bit there. But there was none of that.
Yeah.
So that's why I was a bit confused by it all.
Cody posts this episode should have been a 2-parter. As much as I wasn't a fan of the premise, I agree. There was so much going on. We haven't even talked about everything. We've been talking just about one. There's like 2 or 3 other things to talk about from this episode. Yeah. ridiculous. But anyway, as a fan of Iris, okay, so put it this way. If you're a stan of Iris West or anything to do with Iris West, there's nothing that this character can do or the writers can do to her to make you have a complaint about her at all. But if you're a fan of Iris and you're someone who wants to see this character grow, this episode, in terms of her narrative, pushed her back. It didn't empower her. Because the one thing Iris has always been great about is she's a character that didn't need superpowers to do what she does. And even Joe points it out in this episode. And they pointed out in the past that when Iris puts her mind to something, she just does it. So the fact that they felt the need to give her powers to make her feel like she's an important part of the team, it was demeaning to her as a character. It just felt really weird. But I have to say, getting her in the suit and seeing her as a speedster was fun. That part of it was fun to me. I know some people are going to say that's crazy that I feel that way, but I thought it was fun. I didn't have a problem with that at all. I just feel like her motivations were really strange, and we're going to get more into that as we dive down this rabbit hole of this episode. So let me mark that out now. So let's see. Another thing that kind of bugged me was that, and it didn't feel like it was for the show. It felt like it was maybe for the fans of Iris. When Barry asked Iris if she wanted to give up the powers, I thought that was a little weird because it wasn't her powers.
Yeah, it was I think I brought up. I think what I used was like, if you come in possession of something that's not yours, but you know the true owner of it, you're going to give it back to them, because it's not your right to have it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was weird, and I saw a decent amount of people like bring it up on Twitter, like, what's the point of this scene?
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like it was another sort of West Allen scene that they just wanted to put into the episode. I guess that's probably the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a bit confusing.
Well, True Talk says I don't see it that way.
Need to do that.
I think it was more of her realizing this is not what she needs to be doing. Oh, and yes, True Talk, in that sense, where they started in the episode and what they got to at the end is completely different. Like, I totally agree with you that what happened at the end of the episode and the journey that she took from the beginning to the end, that part, once we got to the end, I kind of understood what they were doing. But I think that a lot of the stuff she did in the episode would have been fine if we had had some hints of it beforehand. It just felt a lot to lay on us based on a comment Ralph made. That's like writing 101. That was like something you get from first time writers. And I guess that's why it felt that way. With the guy that wrote this is his first, episode, writing an episode for anything on the DC TV shows. So I don't know.
What I thought it was like, when I thought it was weird that Ralph was it would have been more interesting if it was saying maybe like someone like Cisco or even like Caitlin, if they were the one that said it to Iris, because they've been in that group for a while.
Right.
But like, Ralph has been a character who, like, not only Iris, but a lot of the people on Team Flash have just like, it's just that like a person you don't respect, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I don't respect someone, I don't really like take their opinion to heart at all. I'm like, okay, I don't really give a crap what you just said, but I'll move on.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it would have worked better if it was someone like Cisco or Caitlin that said it. It would have been harsh. And I guess some people might have thought it wouldn't have fit, but they could have set up a situation where that would have worked. Because personally, if there's a person like Ralph on my team where, this season we've seen how the rest of the team treats him, and they said that to me, I really wouldn't care about their opinion. Right. And it's weird that was what triggered Iris so much. Yeah,
Giovanni says Ralph was pointless in this episode. He really... I
think they were just trying to hammer home, like, when they set him up early in the episode, like he was the thing that said that's Iris. They had to continue him down that road of him sort of whining and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Joe says that Iris has shown more cojones in the past than Ralph Halsey. That's the thing, is she let someone brand new to the team say something to her and get under her skin, and I'm just like...
Yeah.
What? It just felt really weird to me. Really, really, really weird. But I feel like Barry asking for her powers back was like totally pandering to one particular fan base, and I just was not a fan about it. They weren't her powers. Like, for example, if Cisco had lost his powers to another person that he didn't know, let's change it around. What if Barry would have lost his powers to a random stranger? Then they would have said, we have to give those powers back. The powers belong to Barry. But since Iris had them, they were like, would you please give me my powers back? Or do you want to give them up because I would never ask for them back? It was just really silly. And if you're a stan of Iris, you're going to love that kind of stuff. And if you're not, you're going to be like us and wondering, what was the point of that? Okay. Let me mark that off the list here.
Anyway, I'm going to be back in like 30 seconds.
Okay. So while you're gone, I'm going to talk a little chat or whatever. Why no coffee girl? They probably, the writers for this episode, the writer for this episode probably wasn't told to put her in, because the showrunners are probably pulling the strings for that character. So, Monique says, I am an Iris stan. I thought Ralph making her doubt herself was ridiculous. Well, thank you, Monique. That's awesome. Because that shows that there are people who can tell the difference between, forced writing and organic writing. Iris is a character who's strong enough where I don't see her letting someone like Ralph get under her skin. I just don't. As a viewer, I don't understand that. Yes, Sarah Stark, it would have been more fun if they made Barry, Cisco, and Caitlin switch powers. Absolutely. I would have loved to have seen Cisco with an evil voice in his head. That would have been pretty neat. Or having Barry, or having Caitlin have speed and Barry have the Killer Frost powers. So, yes, True Talk. I was going to mention that later. But yes, Flash is gone until April 10th. So it actually comes back a week after Arrow, because Arrow's off this week, so Arrow comes back a week early, and it doesn't come back till April 10th. So we're gonna not have Flash for the rest of this month. So that's unfortunate. JJ, we're gonna talk about the thinking cap when Paige gets back. That's the next thing on my list. Okay.
I just got back then. Yeah.
Oh, before we do that though, let's talk about how ridiculous the wave to stop the fire guy was. I just need to bring this up. There's only 3 things that would have happened with that wave, and none of them are what happened in the episode. Number 1 is the wave would have crushed him. That was a huge wave. Crashing down on a regular person who just has the ability to make fire. He wasn't super strong. He wasn't super durable. It would have crushed him. Or it would have pushed him further into the city, because that's what waves do, and then it would have pulled him out to the ocean, which is what waves do. He was just laying in the same spot that he was standing in. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So, just had to point that out. The coffee shop girl wears Caitlin's choker. Is that true? I didn't notice that. She's got on the same choker as Caitlin?
No, all chokers look pretty much the same.
I'm going to have to go and look at that, because that would be pretty interesting. Also, a lot of people that are saying that this mystery girl could be another version of Eobard Thawne. Why would that be? He already knows all of these people. The stuff that he would be doing as her doesn't make any sense. If he was just in another person's body, he would just be doing what he normally does. He wouldn't be manipulating them or writing in a strange language. So I don't think it's Eobard Thawne. Several people said that. Okay, so someone says yes, and somebody says no, it's a random necklace. Doc Savage says it is. Amethyst says it is. Monique says it's not. And Braden says it is. Great. I'm going to have to go back and look at that scene, because I'm a little confused. Okay, so let's jump into the next of a million things that happened in this episode. So many things happened, and so many of them didn't matter. But this one I think does matter. So Harry Wells is creating his own version of the thinking cap. I forgot what he called it in the episode. I know he said at the end.
Whatever it was.
Yeah, like it's the thinking cap, basically. Look, there's like a war going on in the comments about the choker now. That's pretty funny. So I'm sitting here the whole time this is going on, and I'm thinking, we are thinking of ways to outsmart the thinker, which I would not do, because I think that's kind of silly. And we're thinking of ways to maybe stop his meta powers with the help of another metahuman. But don't we already have the ability to stop Meta's powers? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. The Argus facility is one big meta dampening facility. That big bunker on Earth X was a metahuman dampening facility. Wouldn't they be better off creating a weapon that shoots a beam of that same technology to stop the Thinker? Or tricking him into a facility with that on? Like, maybe going somewhere with these metas. Because here's the thing. Yes, with the power of Kilgore, if he knew there was technology within close range, he could do something to stop it. But if you do it quick enough, he wouldn't have time to do that because he would lose those powers. Wouldn't that be a better thing to pursue than, all these other things they're doing? I mean, what do you think, Paigey? What did you think about the thinking cap? I thought it was kind of a let's beat him by making our own thinking cap. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's almost like they feel like, okay, well, we need to beat him, so let's just do. Instead, we'll be the reverse thinker. That's almost like what they're trying to do.
Right.
By the looks. Will it work? Maybe. I don't know. I don't necessarily know if that'll be the way that they take him down. It might help in a bit, or help in a section of taking him down. But yeah, I think it's just like, let's just make it like a reverse thinking cap.
Yeah, it says Jaquito says an anti-meta gun kills the show. I don't think so. They've got the cuffs already. I mean, the gun would just be an extension of something that already works. Because I would say that Barry could just run up and put the cuffs on. Well, I mean, that would work, right? Because that would disable the powers, meaning that Kilgore couldn't use his powers. So Barry could just run up and put the handcuffs on DeVoe. As long as DeVoe was distracted.
Or even shoot him from a distance with the thing that wraps around their neck. Like they used on the guy that could shrink things.
Yeah, there's a lot of options other than a thinking cap. Plus, here's my only real complaint about that. The whole point of having a villain this season that was not a speedster was to avoid having people with the same powers. So by creating a reverse thinking cap, isn't that technically the same thing as just having another speedster villain? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. So, I don't know. I'm interested to see where it goes. I hope this isn't the end of Harry Wells, because we've had this version of Harry for the longest. And
we killed off a Wells last season for silly reasons. So.
Yeah. Another thing is, wouldn't you think that since there's alternate versions of these characters on other Earths, wouldn't they say, well, let's try Earth 2 and see if there's a DeVoe on Earth 2 or Earth 3 or whatever? I mean, I don't know. Mike Horan, flashback to mentioning Metacuffs 2 chats ago. Mike, you were one of the people that mentioned it. That's true. I remember that. I've seen it since you mentioned it. I've seen a couple other people mention it. But I think it's because you might have brought it up in the chat. What's up, Adriel Ortega? How are you? The Thinker has that bad luck, girl. He does, but the thing is that the powers her powers have to be used when she wants them to happen. Once she learned how to control them, it just didn't happen all the time. If you notice, it seems like the Thinker can't use more than one set of powers at a time. Like if he's using Kilgore's powers, he can't use any of the other ones. At least that's the way it seems. I don't know if that's actually the way it works, but that's the way it seems. Tess Morgan. I wish Tess Morgan was around, Wouldn't it be really interesting if Jesse's mother was Tess Morgan? I know they never really mentioned that or talked about it, but...
Well, the line that she uses to Harry is the same one that remember in the season 1 the flashbacks?
Yes, I do remember that.
For when she says the same thing that the Earth 1 Tess says to Earth 1 Harrison Wells.
Yeah.
She says the exact same thing. Someone said that the voice actor's the same. I'm not too sure. I think that's what people were looking into, but it's sort of hard to tell.
I think...
Because I think they might...
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I remember that episode. I'll just have to go back and watch it again.
But I know she says the same line as the Earth 1 Tess does say to Harry. But...
how many powers does DeVoe have? I think he's got like 7, right? 7 of them? It's either 7 or 8.
7 because Ralph's the bus metahuman Fallouts with Tracy Brand, so it's 7.
Yeah. Yep. Is the Coffee Girl equivalent to Bart Allen? That's a good question, Alexandra. There is a theory that she could be a female version of Bart, since Bart did train under train under Jay Garrick, and a lot of people think that she trained under Jay Garrick. There's so little known about that character. My biggest fear is we're going to get another character with a big letdown. That's just my biggest fear with that.
Hashtag chucking a Savitar.
Yeah.
Is that the term that we're using? Or?
Mm-hmm. Okay,
or is it visually?
Let's jump into the next topic from this episode, and that was Barry was, in the synopsis, he was touted as being the team leader for this episode. He wasn't really the team leader. He was just kind of there in the lab with everybody. You know, I mean, he was talking to Iris a little bit, but he wasn't really calling the shots, in my opinion. On top of that, Barry was shown to be kind of stupid, and I do not understand why they do that. Like, for example, when he walked over to the desk where the monitors were, and Cisco's like, other monitor, and I'm like, do we really need that comedic effect? Barry's not stupid. He's been in the lab and worked in that lab for 4 years now. He knows what the monitors are and what they do. It's not his first time using them. I mean, it just really felt stupid. Like, for example, he's used that equipment for stuff before. So he would not walk over and look at the wrong monitor for things. On top of that, why did Cisco say wrong monitor? He was just looking around. Did that monitor not do something? Was he looking at a monitor with nothing turned on? That would be even worse. It's just like, oh gosh. I did like the interactions between Cisco and Harry, though. That was pretty funny. Where he came over and asked him to help, and they started kind of like bantering between each other. That was pretty silly. I like that one. But Barry is literally like the dumb person on the show now, and I don't understand why that is. No one that works at Star Labs is stupid. None of them are. So there's no reason.
Ralph.
Well, okay. Yeah, but does he really work at Star Labs? He just moved in recently, so he's got his own little private investigation. But here's
implies you get paid. So.
Right. We're going to talk about paid work in just a second. Trust me, that's the next thing on the list here. But if you look at Arrow, and the writers love to do this, and you know exactly what I'm about to say here. When they talk about something really smart, one of the characters will always go, "Can you speak English?" I don't understand that. That means nothing to me. Can someone explain to me what they're talking about? Like, that they love to do that, and I guess they feel like the viewing audience needs that character. We don't need that character anymore. We don't need that kind of person on the show. So the fact that Barry didn't have his speed doesn't make him stupid. Like, it's not like, oh, he lost all of his speed and he's stupid. That's a little bit silly. Barry's me when I try to use a Mac computer. That's funny, True Talk. Look, Cullen Prime. If Barry's so stupid, like they make him, then how does he create Gideon if he's so dumb? We are so far away from ever seeing Gideon. I don't know if we're ever going to see that.
Oh, God.
Barry was going to be the leader, but
is,
Harry and Cisco were the ones who helped Iris. Go ahead.
They showed Barry to be really dumb, and then when he's in prison, he comes up with that formula to tear away the metal or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Like the acidic formula.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, which one is it? Is he smart that he can do that out of like literal prison materials that they're willing to give you? Or is he a dumb and he doesn't know which monitor to look at? Like, you got to pick one. You can't have you can't be the one extreme to the other.
Look, Chessmaster goes, Barry said he had no job, but he has started working with Ralph. That's another good point. But see, when I get to the stuff about Iris at the end, we'll talk about that, because I'm going to bring something up that I hope does not happen, but I have a feeling it is. The original 2020 timeline, Barry created Gideon. I'll take it, Giovanni. I'll take it. That's a good excuse or a good explanation as any. He's only smart when he's away from Star Labs. Yeah, why not? What could the Thinker do with Melting Point, Superior 2.0? Well, for one, he can take powers away from anybody and give them to himself without having to absorb. You know what I mean? Like, well, if he had the powers of Melting Point, he could give them to other people. So, example, he could transfer DNA. That could be, like, I feel like that's another step towards him, like, taking his own body back, maybe. I don't know. Wait a minute. Is this true? Life and Time podcast? Stephen Hawking just died? Is that for real?
Yeah, it's on Twitter. He died. It's trending.
Oh my gosh.
6 years old or something.
Wow. That's a huge loss. Huge. He was like legit one of the smartest people ever alive. That's really
76
sad.
years old. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he stayed alive a lot longer than people thought he would be considering his condition, but that's still... Wow. Say that... Why would I say that? That's stupid? Are you going to make a meme out of it or a soundbite? I don't know. Anyway, that's really sad about Stephen Hawking. I don't really know what else to add to it because I don't know a lot of the context, but, you know, unfortunate. Talking about the technobabble, though, and the stuff with Barry, shows like Star Trek kind of originated the idea of technobabble, where you have characters spouting off like a lot of stuff that sounds scientific but isn't always scientific. I don't know when we started getting these characters who would say, I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, when did that happen? It had to have happened at some point in the last 15 years or so, and they just kind of kept it going or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so Barry's not stupid. I wish the writers would stop writing him that way. At least Caitlin did something this episode. I felt like she contributed quite a bit. So Caitlin fans should have been happy with that. But
you know why?
Why is that?
Because Iris wasn't in Star Labs.
Oh, see? I see what you did there. That is true.
I told ya. She wasn't in there, so... And they obviously they weren't going to make... Like, they really didn't give Barry too much. But as I've been saying it the whole season, the reason that Caitlin has hardly any lines this season is because Iris is in Star Labs, and they give all of Caitlin's lines to Iris.
That's true.
But Iris wasn't in Star Labs, so Caitlin actually had something to say in this episode.
True talk. R.I.P. Axel. That was the best part of this week's episode of Legends, in my opinion. What is DeVoe's motivation? Why is he collecting powers? Julie, good to see you. Follow Julie on Twitter. She's got quite an interesting Twitter feed. His motivation, I don't know. Maybe he wants to be in charge of the world or something. I know that he's trying to get back to having his body again, but he also wants to have all these powers. Maybe that's kind of what Marlize is worried about, is she doesn't understand why he's doing it. Because when he originally got his powers with the thinking cap, he just wanted to be smarter. But now it's turned into something different. So maybe that's going to be the catalyst for her, you know, flipping sides. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, so let's talk about the end of the episode and the revelation that Harry Wells now knows the name of the last two metas. Now, we know one of them is the character of Null, right? That's one of them. Who is the other one? Do we know Folding Man? Is that who it is?
There's Null and Folded Man. They're the last two
right.
boss metas, yeah.
Now, we know what Folding Man's powers are going to be. Or is Null going to have the same powers as the comics, or is it going to be something different? Because you read ahead a lot more than I do, so...
Yeah, I think from what I know, Null's got the same powers in the comics. So it's basically specific gravity change. So you can just pick a specific person and say, well, gravity's changed for you and you're floating, or you can be like heavy to the ground.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of comedy when we get back to the Flash in a goddamn month.
Yeah, Jaquito says, everybody's saying enlightenment, but we don't really, like, what does that have to do with collecting powers? That's my thing. I don't understand what that has to do with that. But the Thinker's plans have been very, I don't know, vague to me this season. I expected a lot more from that character, but I don't know. She fills people with helium. Oh, it's funny.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Or fills them with lead.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Look, Life and Time podcast. Barry probably can't think as fast as he usually does. But Barry was a CSI before he got Speed Force powers, so...
Yeah, they do that in episode 1 of season 1. They show him, like, quickly looking at a crime scene and coming up with the a possible option as to what happened there. And like I think he even picks like a brand of boot just by looking at a footprint.
Yeah,
that episode.
That was a really cool episode, the very first one, because you see like the CSI powers working.
Yeah, like the infographics coming up and stuff.
Yeah. If Legends ever ends, do you think Ray could work on Legends? I don't think most of those characters, if Legends ends, will probably either cameo here and there, or they'll just like they will retire from being a superhero. I don't think we'll see them do anything else after that. Maybe like Wally would come back to the Flash, but I don't know. Barry used to be Sherlock Holmes. That's kind of what a CSI is, which is why I think it's weird that they make him so silly and stupid. So that was cool. That part of the episode was cool. Like getting to that point, I thought was kind of interesting. Let's see. Okay, so Iris West confirms that she gave up being a reporter. She quit being a reporter, took over at Star Labs, and that's... I'm kind of confused here. Was the revelation that she doesn't need to be a speedster to do what she's doing, or was the revelation that she wants to be a writer again? I'm kind of confused on that because
they didn't really cement the idea whether she was late. Like what was happening? Like is she going back to? They just like hinted when they showed up the blog that she was going back to doing it. But I was like, well, that's a step back. You're a goddamn reporter now. We're going back to that season one blog, which I don't mind. At least it's a step in the right direction. But it wasn't really like cementing down the idea. Like is she still going to be heading Team Flash and then writing this blog in the background with like inside knowledge of what's going on in Team Flash? Like, because I think that what made the blog cool in season one is that she was oblivious to what was going on.
Yeah.
She was seeing it from this perspective of the public. So I don't really... It's, as I said, it's still a step in the right direction, but it's completely different than what it was in season one, because in season one, it was, you know, from the perspective of someone, just the public. You know, obviously Barry would come and talk to her as the Flash, but she didn't know Barry was the Flash. She wasn't sitting inside Star Labs working with the Flash on a daily basis. So... I don't know. As I've always said, I think Iris works better in the comics when she doesn't know that Barry's the Flash. I think she works better as a reporter when it's like that. But if she just goes back to this storyline, I think it's better than what she's got at the moment.
Yeah,
True Talk. Basically nothing.
True Talk says reevaluation that her contribution to help people is writing. That's cool. I mean, I agree with that. If that's what her revelation is, I totally agree with that. She works better as a connective character to the real world. That is where I like her. Having her in the labs with everybody else takes that whole environment out. They mentioned it in last week's episode. They touched on it again in this week's episode. Iris has been mishandled. Not necessarily in personality, but in position. She could be doing so much more for the show in other ways that they just decided not to do. When did she quit her reporter job? Where's her income coming from recently? You could say that about everybody in Star Labs. There's not been money in a while. HR talked about it last season where he said they needed to make money because their investments were drying up or something along those lines. So there's a lot of question to where people are making money. So it's one of those things where we'll probably never find the answer to it because nobody wants to see superhero people working regular jobs. So, you know, that's kind of where, like, they just keep them away from that. They don't even have to deal with it. The only one whose job is relatively interesting outside of Iris being a reporter would be Barry doing the CSI stuff, working for the police department, because that connects to him being a superhero, which is something that they've taken away this season too. So we don't have that either. Journalism is so cool. I'd love to see it more. Well, here's the thing is Iris in the comics, at least the older comics that I watched or read, she basically connected the real world to the Flash as a human being. Like, he was a superhero, but she wrote about him like a person. And so it made people connect to him at that level. And they're not using that on the show. Who manages the Flash Museum? I don't know.
Star Wars Museum?
Yeah, I think that's what he meant. But there is, I mean, the Flash Museum has been seen in time travel stuff, but never on the show that I can remember. I mean, other than in the Speed Force, but living off Thawne's money. Let's see. I feel like longer series go for these shows, and more the writers will butcher a character. Well, here's the problem, Sam, and this episode had so much in it, and they gave it to a first-time writer. That's a recipe for disaster. So here's the way I look at this episode, and I'll talk about it more in my reviews, and I'll go into detail on some of these things. The idea could have been very cool. And if you're a huge fan of Iris and you wanted to see her with superpowers running around saving the day, you kind of got that in this episode. There was a little bit of that in this episode. But overall, everything was handled so improperly when it comes to writing, pacing, narrative. There were so many other issues with this episode, with the metas, with some of the stuff that the characters did. It really was, as a standalone episode, I'm going to write for the Iris West fans, and that's it. Screw everybody else. That's how it felt to me. And there's nothing wrong with promoting Iris, but this was the problem Supergirl had in season 1. In order to make Supergirl a relevant character, you had to make her better than everybody else around her and demean everybody else around her to make her an important character on the series. And I talked about this when Wonder Woman came out. Wonder Woman is an example of a movie where the primary character lifts up the people around them, and therefore that makes them a better superhero. So Supergirl started doing that this season, and the show has been much better by doing that. And here in this episode in particular, in order to make Iris better than everybody else, they gave her powers. They made Barry act really stupid. They made him ask her for, if she wanted to give up the powers again. There were just so many demeaning things that happened this episode that Iris West didn't need to be a great character. And there's some fans of Iris where if you tell them that, they're going to get really mad at you. They're going to hate you for it. I just feel like I love her as a character. I even defended her last season when I felt like they were mishandling her with the whole Savitar thing. I'm just so fed up with the writers of the show. It feels like it was like, okay, we got this one episode. It's really important. We need to cover all of these things. We'll give it to the guy who's never written an episode before. And we'll let the guy who's never directed before actually direct. Why would you do that? It just seems really stupid to me. So this episode delivered in some ways and completely screwed up in others. And it's so frustrating because we're so close to the end of the season. And again, we get that honorary Barry loses his powers for an episode. This was the one. Also, I'm thinking about this now. When Melting Point swapped Barry and Iris's powers, he ran out of the room, but Joe or no one else tried to stop him. If you think back.
Yeah, I said that in my review. I was like, yeah, you've lost your speed. Doesn't mean you can't run.
Yeah, no one tried to stop. Like, Joe didn't get on the radio and say, hey, the guy's running out of the building or anything.
And not even that. They missed an actual good comedy moment. Barry running as the Flash in his Flash suit without speed.
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious. And that would have been a good comedy moment rather than some of the cringy stuff people have complained about. That would have been smart comedy, like such a flipped off situation. We've never seen Barry run as the Flash in his Flash suit without speed. That would have been good. Even if he didn't catch him, even if he got stopped by like someone like wheeling a hospital bed in the way and the person got away, that would have been funny. Why not do that? I can't believe that was missed. I think the sum up for this episode is missed opportunities.
Yeah, I agree.
There's so many different things they could have done. That's a perfect example of it, and some other stuff with Iris and Speed and just everything that revolved around that. So, yeah.
Someone said, "What happened to the Star Labs Museum?" I mean, you got me. They still got a damaged roof they haven't repaired for like 4 years. So, I mean, I don't know. You would think that it would have been condemned by now, but so the Flash got worse. But I feel that they will get through the slump. This writers need to get their act together. So that's the problem, Alexandra. Is this episode did not need to be scripted by someone who has never written an episode before. It's just weird. Steven says every time he says that to the writers, they laugh at him. I must have missed a comment somewhere. Yes, I love Iris, but I guess I'll give your powers back thing was ridiculous. Again, that whole scene was like, if it was anybody else other than her, Barry would have just taken them back. But because it was her, it's like, you going to give them back to me? Or are you going to be the Flash? And I'll go back to being Barry Allen with no powers. Yeah, exactly, Ben. That's a good point. He says, Melting Point proceeded to act like he had no clue what he'd done when he gave Iris Barry's powers, but followed by saying, you asked for this. That was my whole point about his character. At the beginning, he acted like he was just a regular guy trying to stop someone from doing something bad. And then he acts like he didn't even understand what his powers did. But then when he was with Barry and Iris, he said, you asked for this. So again, it's just like, what was going on with that? Giovanni says, are you tired of Team Flash? I want Barry to work by himself with Kate, Cisco, and Harry appear on other episodes. The problem is that I don't think the showrunners want to go back to that. So will we ever see that again? Probably not, even though I think they're the strongest characters when it comes to the Star Labs group. DC Marvel United says, dude, this episode was so bad in my opinion. What do you think? That pretty much sums up what I think. I totally agree. Do they still store metas in the pipeline? So that's a question I asked previously. They said that a lot of them got moved, but I don't know if all of them got moved. Did all of them get moved, Paigey, or no?
Didn't they say that like maybe they all got shifted to Iron Heights?
Yeah.
I think because that's how Peekaboo is out. Because
Yeah.
Peekaboo she escaped because of, I don't know. It's really confusing. I try to forget that stuff even exists.
Henry says,
Things
so
the writers
Iris'
have as
suit
well.
is just her jacket? Yes, that was her suit. They just...
Yeah, I'm surprised it had that big reveal because it was just literally the jacket.
With black pants
Unless
and
it was
black
just-
gloves.
Yeah, because of the jacket. It was just the jacket like folded over more.
Yeah.
It was the same jacket that Iris had, just that Iris was wearing it open at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah. Somebody asked me if I like Oliver Queen as mayor. I don't mind Oliver as the mayor. I think it's okay. They just sometimes they have a tough time dealing with it. I can't imagine that he goes out all night as a vigilante and then works all day as the mayor. I just feel like that's a bit unbelievable. But
It just matters like how long they go with it. Like I wonder if he's going to be mayor till the end of. I know we're not talking Arrow, but like
we can still talk
in
Arrow.
the comics, it's not,
I think we're pretty much done with this
it's just
episode of
not-
Flash. So if you guys want to ask questions about
Yeah.
other stuff, you can.
like real Arrow. Like in the comics, he's not mayor all the time. Like he's only mayor for a bit of it. If anything, he's businessman more than he is mayor. I think it's obviously the thing that they wanted to go, the road they wanted to go down with his character.
That's a good point, Ben. He goes, also as an EMT, he threatened to kill Iris rather than not putting that scalpel. Like, why was that even a thing? He wasn't a bad guy. Why would he take a hostage? That was because didn't he just talk the guy down at the bank? That's a good point. He spent the first half of the episode basically he talked the guy down at the bank because he didn't want him to make a big mistake. And the very first thing he does when asked about a bad guy is threatens to kill an innocent person. It's a really good point. I didn't think about that. Mike says, I don't think he realized he absorbed the bank robber's powers because he got punched. It's possible. But to me, I think he kind of knew what he could do, right? Didn't you get that impression, Paigey, or no? I think he kind of knew that.
What was that?
The guy. See, Mike says that he said, I don't think he realized he absorbed the bank robber's powers because he got punched. I think he knew what he was doing when he was talking to him. I got the impression that he knew he could take away powers, maybe, or that.
And that's why he gave him to that dude. Like they should have explained it more, because like, couldn't he have just held it off and given it to someone else, or like, did he have to give it to that dude? Like, does he have the powers that he doesn't want them or something when he takes them off someone? It was like, it's very not well explained.
Says, I think Paigey was right. This episode should have been a two-parter. I kind of agree with you. There was so much going on.
been.
I think it should have been.
Yeah.
Okay, so Eric, this guy swaps people DNA. One, people should look like those they switch with. Yes, I agree. Doesn't work on two normal people. What are the effects? And that's not how DNA works. Yes, I agree with every single statement you just said there. But I said that back like last week when I was talking about this episode, that if you swap DNA with people, is it just targeting metahumans? Or does it work like if I touched a pig and then touched a cat, would they swap? And if they did, they would literally just be changing positions at that point. So, because DNA is more than just meta powers.
Look, I think what they should have done, and I think it would have made more sense if they literally just made it that the guy had Freaky Friday powers.
Yeah.
So basically, you just put their consciousness in different bodies. So Iris was put in Barry's body, Barry was put in Iris's body.
Yeah. See, a lot of people are
I think that
joining.
would have
A lot of people that are joining now weren't here when I mentioned this earlier, but his powers were explained one way and then did different things throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Okay. So the DNA swapping, whether it makes sense or not, was supposedly if he touches two people, he swaps their DNA. But in this context, it swapped meta powers. It gave people without powers powers and gave people with powers. It basically took their powers away. However, the swapping aspect of it, obviously the writers decided that didn't matter, because at the beginning of the episode, he touches the guy with fire powers, disconnects from that person, touches the guy on the floor, and somehow that swapped their powers when he wasn't making contact with the other person. That opens the door to a whole nother can of worms in terms of what his powers can do. So either he swaps DNA or he stores their powers. It cannot be the same thing. The way Caitlin described it, he swaps DNA, which means he would have to touch two people at the same time. And we saw that's not what happened at the beginning of the episode. So it didn't make any sense. Sam says, $5 super chat. Thank you, Sam. Check your DMs discussing films for said check regarding a thing. I'm not sure what he means, but if it has relevance to a particular interview. That was in regard to, and I believe I can talk about this now because it's already done, an interview with Cress, who plays Jefferson on Black Lightning. I believe Discussing Film will be releasing that interview soon. I don't know the exact time. But that's what that was in regards to. Eric's Reloaded, another Spider-Man reference comparing Thinker to Octopus to Spider-Man 2. The Flash loves to reference Marvel show or Marvel movies and shows. $2 super chat from CB2198. Last non-comic book film you saw in a theater. Okay, let me think. Because particularly for me, I wait for everything else to come out on home 4K Blu-ray. What was the last one I saw that was a non-superhero film? It was probably Blade Runner. But is Blade Runner, would you consider that a comic book? So I don't think they've ever done a comic book. Yeah, Blade Runner 2049 was the last thing I saw that was not comic book related. I loved it. I thought it was great. Let's see. We're going to answer a few more questions because we're already at the hour mark, or a little over hour. Just a fan fave. You always see the inconsistencies. Nothing goes unnoticed. Well, I miss some stuff, but the problem is, as a fan of comic books, growing up, I always noticed if something was wrong or something was out of place. Like if there was a color wrong in the the colorization of a character or something. So coming into the TV shows, it's very similar to me. I don't know if you remember, there was a show called Lost. I don't know how many people watched it. Did you ever watch that show, Paigey, Lost?
Oh, I think I watched it. Honestly, I think I watched it, and then the writer's strike happened, and
yeah,
like the broadcast in Australia got changed, and we didn't get it, and then I just ended up like losing interest in it.
Yeah, Lost is a show where when it first started out, the first few seasons of it built a lot of lore and a lot of questions that fans were waiting to get answered. And then at the end, they just dropped the ball on all of them. And I've been very jaded ever since that happened. So when I'm watching shows, if something doesn't make sense right away, I call it out. Simply because it's like, yeah, I don't think about that kind of stuff. But then you go back, let me put something in perspective for everybody. If you're not watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., okay, I'm just going to put this out there again, you are missing out. It is a great show. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., every single episode, the inconsistencies in that show are so tiny, 99.9% of the time it won't even matter. They think out those seasons in a meticulous way. Everything sort of fits together like pieces of a puzzle, right? So when you're watching something like The Flash, it's not the same show as Agents. I understand that. It's a completely different thing. But it is a superhero genre show. When you're watching a show like that and you know what the show is capable of, you go back to season 1, season 2, you know what the show is capable of doing, and you watch it making so many mistakes because they're just putting all kinds of people in the writing room that aren't paying attention to things that happened before that episode or things that are going to happen after that episode, and it makes me frustrated. So it's hard for me to give a pass to a show when I know it's capable of doing more. It's just that simple. Yes. Did they switch the Fire guy's DNA back? Unethical, don't you think, not to give it back? Possibly. I mean, I don't know. Did they address that in the episode? I don't think that they did.
No, I think they just showed that the water fell on the dude, and that was it. That was it for him in that episode.
Yeah. Deb M, $2 super chat. Thanks to you and Paigey for the live feed. Well, you're very welcome, Deb. We love doing these after chats for Flash. It's a lot of fun. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on the verge of cancellation, sadly. Well, the thing is that there's a couple reasons why. Number one, I can't believe it would be because it's doing better on Fridays than any other show they've had on Friday nights. But I think the problem is that Marvel and Disney are getting ready to do like this, or Disney's getting ready to do this streaming service that they're going to, like, I'm not a big fan of it. I hate paying extra for streaming services. I feel like it's getting out of hand. I mean, we got the DC streaming service coming soon and the Disney streaming service. So a lot of their properties that are not part of their own, you know, because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a joint venture with ABC and Disney. So they're trying to keep everything in-house. So I think that's why they're having a problem with it. But I would hate to see it go. However, Jed Whedon and all the other people involved have filmed 2 endings for season 5. So if the show gets renewed, they'll have a specific ending to lead into the next season. If the show gets canceled, they have an ending to wrap up the whole series. So very rarely do shows do that. So I'm kind of happy they are. I'd hate to see it go. It is my favorite TV show right now. So let's see. One of the producers says they think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has 1 or 2 more seasons in them. I wouldn't be surprised. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a show sort of like Legends of Tomorrow, if you look at it that way. It's a show where they can literally introduce Z-list characters. You could take a character from like 1948 that hardly anyone knows about and bring them on the show because the options are there to do that. Which is why I think Legends does so well is because they have the opportunity to bring on characters that you wouldn't see on the other shows. So, let's see. Godly Bar says, Todd just said he's bringing back Irish journalism art. Well, I'm on board with that. I think Paigey would agree with that.
Thank the Lord. Godspeed is with us. He's listening.
You got a fan in the Flash 20,208. He was wondering if you're ever going to speak again.
Honestly, I have like a little model car on my desk, and I was just rolling around while you were speaking. That kept my attention.
Arrow season 5 should have had 2 different endings. I was honestly, and I know Paigey probably agrees with me, I was excited about season 6 after the ending of season 5.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's Arrow season 5 fault for their ending. I think it's Arrow season 6 fault for its pickup from there. I think it just had a very lackluster result.
Yeah.
Or fallout from what happened.
It's like they passed them the ball and they did this.
And I think that's why a lot of people might not like Arrow this season that much, even though I think it's picking up now. Even if though it's picking up, people still don't like it. I think it's just because some people might still be salty over, what happened at the beginning. Because I think everyone was like, "Oh, Felicity's going to die." I think like a lot of people were like banking on Felicity probably dying. When I think the obvious choice is going to be Samantha and possibly one more, possibly Thea. It looked like Thea could die, but I think they wanted to give Thea another ending. I think we're going to be getting that in whenever Arrow comes back. What, 3 weeks or something? 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Whenever that shows up again.
There should have been more at stake at the end of that. When the island blew up, everyone should have, not everyone should have came back. I mean, I know we lost a couple people, but literally no one of any, and I hate to say this, importance was lost on the island. Everyone they were going to use came back.
Yeah, and I think everyone knew that they wanted to include William. How are they going to include William? Killing Samantha. So everyone knew that was going to happen, but they should have done more, I think.
No, JJ, they never mentioned anything about Artemis on the island. I guess we're to assume that she's gone. Why do I keep getting asked to smash or pass people on the shows? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone started it in the chat. I'm not too sure. I think that was a very last year thing to do in regards to YouTube videos and stuff.
Let's see. Cody sent me a side-by-side picture of Caitlin and the coffee shop girl. Okay, I'll look at it in a second. We're going to be wrapping up here in a minute anyway. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. Do you think Earth 1 Laurel will ever come back? No. We're never going to see Earth 1 Laurel again. Okay, so let's talk about that, the breaks in the show. So Arrow comes back on March 29th, which is the very end of this month, and Flash doesn't come back until April 10th, which is next month, obviously. I don't think Black Lightning is going on break, unless I missed it. I think Black Lightning is airing all the way through the rest of the month. Am I right on that, or no? I think it is.
Well, it's only got a couple of episodes left. I think it might have 4 episodes after this week, or 3.
Yeah.
So I don't know if would it be even worth going on a break if you only got a couple of episodes left?
Yeah. Then we have, I think Legends is also staying on. I don't think Legends is going on break because Supergirl has to come on at a certain time. So Legends has to finish out its season.
I think Legends is on until Legends doesn't have a break because I think it has 5 episodes left. No, it has 4 episodes left now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that'll work out with Supergirl coming back. So it ends and then Supergirl comes back the next week, yeah. So there's no break with Legends, thank God.
That was a question for Paigey. Shouldn't the aliens or Speed Force be after Wally all that time traveling? What do you think?
Yeah, but he's not using the Speed Force to time travel. So the aliens.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean, like the Dominators?
I think assuming that the Speed Force are aliens, maybe? Is that what he's talking about?
I don't know. I don't think... Because I think it's more like reckless use of the Speed Force. You get punished by those time wraiths. But Wally isn't using the Speed Force. He's like willingly going on the Wave Rider, which I think is different. In my eyes, at least.
Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, Julie. I appreciate it. Can we talk about Black Lightning? I mean, we can. Black Lightning is a show where there's only one real like mystery, and that's the stuff with Gamby right now.
Yeah, that's why I don't think it's really worth doing YouTube videos on it, to be completely honest. Like for me, at least.
I still like the show, but it is so street level. It's almost like watching a crime drama. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. But I love Black Lightning. I think the stuff between Anissa and Jefferson is interesting. I think Jennifer isn't doing as much as I'd like to see her do right now.
Have you watched this week's episode?
No, I haven't watched tonight's. No, I'm watching it.
I haven't
after
watched it. No, it's good. Yeah, no, I was going to say apparently this week's a big episode for Jennifer.
Okay. Somebody says they hate Black Lightning.
I
Wow,
haven't
there's a
watched
lot of hate for Black Lightning in the comment section. That's crazy.
Really? I thought the last episode was insane. I couldn't believe half of the stuff that went down.
Yeah, it says, just a fan, why are people hating on it? Is it unrelatable? If you're talking about Black Lightning, no, Black Lightning is the most street level show on they have on the like CW DC TV shows. It's just that Black Lightning is a very straightforward show. There's not a lot of mystery in it, so there's not a lot to break down when you're talking about it.
There's nothing like they mentioned something like, oh, what could that? There's no Jitters girl in Black Lightning. Actually, is Cyanide technically? Is it Cyanide?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, she could be, I guess.
Be the Jitters girl of Black Lightning.
Yeah, and there's several people that are really invested in do great Black Lightning stuff. True Talk does a lot of Black Lightning content, and I would definitely check her channel out if you're interested in that. Yeah, I'm not gonna mention anything Black Lightning because I haven't watched tonight's episode, so. The only thing racist about the show is the reality of the cops actually being that way in real life. That's a good point, Chance. I mean, the show and I said this to everybody. I was like, the show started out very heavy-handed in symbolism and cultural differences, and then it just kind of died off because I knew they weren't going to keep pushing that through the whole series.
Well, yeah, it almost, because you got to remember, like, I think they filmed the pilot and then they didn't film episode 2 for ages.
Yeah.
After the pilot, like it was a ridiculous amount of time, like months.
And Flash 20,208 says Black Lightning is 40 years old. There's a lot of 40-year-old characters on these shows. Why would that be weird? I mean,
like Oliver's in his 30s.
Yeah, Oliver's in his 30s. Then
Barry's 30.
Hank Henshaw's probably in his 40s. He's a couple hundred years old, but in real life, the actor's in his 40s. Joe is in his late 40s, early 50s, I think. So I mean,
Mon-El would be in his 30s.
Yeah. So there's nobody extremely young in terms of superheroes that are the leads on any of the shows. Grant is probably the youngest one, I think. Even Sarah Lance is
Wally.
like in her 30s, right? I mean, so
Yeah, like Wally is probably the youngest in the whole thing.
thank you for the super chat, Sam. Yes, I will keep checking my DMs. You will be the first person that I let know if one of those interviews slide my DMs. He's 40-year-old going out in a costume fighting crime. That's such a ridiculous complaint. I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying, but I don't see what difference that makes.
What do you mean? You have Batman in the DCU who's like 40 something.
Melissa is older than Grant, I believe, by a year or two, ish maybe.
Yeah.
I just think it's ridiculous to say somebody can't be a superhero because of their age. I don't know. I disagree with that. You can have your own opinion. That doesn't matter to me.
Especially when you're in like a meta and you have those powers. Like, fair enough, it's like Oliver Queen, but
right.
You got powers and stuff.
And you got to remember, he retired for 10 years. That's the whole point of the character. That's the whole point of the series. He retired 10 years ago, and then they forced him back on the streets. So it isn't like he's been doing this for the last decade. Right, exactly, Chessmaster. Jay Garrick's in his 50s. Do you not like Jay Garrick? He's a principal fighting crime and the show didn't introduce him properly. Okay. Do you think Black Lightning will be 23 episodes or stay 13 for the next season? If the ratings stay up in the 1.5s, they may bump it up to 17.
I was going to say 16 to 18. Yeah. They'll probably bump it up to.
Do speedsters age in actuality? That's a good question, Chance, because people with healing factors tend to age slower, typically in comics. But I think for the TV series, they probably will just overlook that, maybe.
Hard to tell.
Let's see, all this
that 2056 Flash.
Yeah. Let's see, all this hate on Black Lightning, but it still gets like the most. It's doing really well. It's like I get that some people don't like. I didn't like a lot of shows, and then I changed my mind each season. If you go back and you watch what I thought of Supergirl season 1, you'd be like, how is he even talking about the show right now? Do you want to see Jesse's new team next season? Thank you for the super chat, Sam. I would love to see Jesse's team this season, but I don't think we're going to see it. It really just depends on what Violet's going to be doing, because I think she's got that new show coming out, so she may not have a lot of time to be on The Flash.
Yeah. Well, they're filming it now, but they're filming it for like all the pilots for next season are filming right now, like in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Well, they start filming now, so they can go to those like Pally Fest and all those different fests and stuff to like test the pilot with other people and see their reactions. So they'll film the pilot now, but they won't film the next episode for ages, just like Black Lightning. Like Black Lightning was filming their pilot this time last year. So I think she'll be on like one episode. If she's lucky, she can get time. It depends how long that show is as well, like season wise.
Somebody asked me about Jessica Jones season 2. I've watched the whole thing. I like Jessica Jones, but Jessica Jones is one of those series where I don't know if I could add to, like if I did a review of it. I have this weird thing about reviewing shows that are binge watched. It's just hard to review it because the whole season ends and then you want to go over specific stuff from specific episodes. I mean, Jessica Jones isn't like Daredevil, I guess you could say. There is a little mystery at the end of it. As far as an individual show, I still love it. Jessica Jones is my favorite soundtrack of any TV show. I love that acid jazz music that it has on that show. It's very, because I lived in New York for about a year. Yeah, I guess. What were you going to say? It was what, Paigey?
Sleuthy?
Yeah.
Very sleuthy, you know.
I lived in New York for about a year, and acid jazz was really popular back then. I spent a lot of time going out to places like that where they played that music, and I don't know, it really reminds me of New York when I was there. And Amethyst was talking about that, she doesn't hate Black Lightning. She was just pointing out why people don't like it. Here's the thing. You guys have to understand, when I ask people to give me their opinion in the comment section, I genuinely mean that. I don't expect everyone to like everything that I like. Me and Paigey don't always agree on stuff.
Eric loves caramel, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. So we have to disagree on that one.
You're thinking of Ben. Eric doesn't love caramel.
Sorry. Eric loves LCDs. Sorry, I mixed them up.
Let's see. Yes, I finished Altered Carbon. I love that show. It's really good. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Additional thoughts apart from your videos. I don't really know what to add. I kind of talked about it already. I love it, and I'm still making videos about it. It's just, the thing is, guys, and I've talked about this before, my schedule right now is really, really compromised because I'm spending every single day at the hospital with a family member who will probably be there for another 2 weeks or more. They're in rehabilitation. So I have to record my videos, take them to the hospital with me, edit them at the hospital, and then get them uploaded. So I don't have a lot of time to do all the videos that I want to do. And I realize you guys are so supportive and you want to hear my opinions on it and stuff like that. And I will try to get around to doing them. But I cannot promise reviews for every single thing. I just don't, realistically, I don't have the time. I'm done with Smallville, Gary. I've already watched the whole series. It's just, me and Paigey talked about this. Still sitting in demonetization hell. I can't do anything about that. Thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate it. Look, see what you did, Paigey? Eric loves Elicity, confirmed. See what you've done?
Yeah. Someone wrote in my comment section, so that's why I'm not speaking. It's I'm like bamboozled like by the stupidity of the comment.
I'm gonna go read his comment section,
when,
but go ahead and tell us what you're gonna say. I gotta read this after the show.
Okay, so you know how when like Melting Point is in the hospital with Iris with the scalpel to her throat, and Barry stops him and he starts to run away. In my review, I was like, why didn't you chase after them? And someone goes, if your animal gets hit by a car, are you going to be concerned about chasing after the car, or are you going to be concerned trying to make sure that your pet is okay? That's not the same thing. Iris wasn't dead with her throat slit. You idiot. What a stupid comment. Oh my god. Some people.
Oh gosh.
I like that left me speechless because like someone, and they wrote like 5 different comments. I can't believe this. This is ridiculous. Anyway.
Oh gosh.
Go on.
So Austin says, I was saying on Twitter that I don't hate Iris by any means, but I hate the way they've written her in these past few seasons. I would say that this season is particularly bad compared to the other seasons. What do you think, Paigey? Iris in general?
Iris specifically this season, what is she like?
Yeah, they're saying that they don't hate Iris, but they just don't like the way she's been written for the last few seasons.
Yeah, I don't like Iris's writing. I want to like Iris because I liked her in season 1 and 2. First half of season 3. Second half, hey, that's where it started to get pretty bad. And season 4 continued that. But it all comes down to the writing. It's not like Candace. It's not like we're like maybe we're going to Felicity territory where I think Emily Burt Rickards didn't really care about the character and didn't seem to be like doing much with the character and was just doing that, the one expression all the time. Just seemed like she didn't really care what she was doing. But with Candace Patton, you can tell she cares about what she's doing on screen. So with that, I can respect that and I want to like what she's doing. Unfortunately, she's working with terrible writing for her character. And her character is basically a plot device for the most part. She's a walking plot device, which I think Felicity was in season 3 mainly. And season 4, I think she was just like weird. So as long as they can fix that up, I would prefer if Iris was out of Star Labs because I don't think she fits that environment and she focused on reporting. If they did the reporting and she was still involved with Star Labs, I'd be okay. But they just actually need to make her an actual character with story. This episode, some progression, but it feels like it was forced progression because there was no setup for this episode throughout the season. It feels like it was just planted in our heads that Iris had been suffering this whole season with fears and stuff like that when that wasn't the case. But Candace is a really good actor, and you can tell from this season and last season when the writing wasn't that good, but she still pulled off really good performances. So, imagine if she had good writing.
Like I would say Iris at the end of last season was a very strong character, particularly after the events of Savitar. I feel like they used her as a plot device for a lot of season 3, and then towards the end she got very strong as a character, and then they dropped the ball on that by letting HR switch with her. Not that I wanted to see anything happen to her, but she had accepted her fate. So,
like I think we mentioned this on another stream. We were like, it was like one of the more powerful moments of last season, even though season 3 did wander off a bit and not finish as strong as it could have been. Like one of the stronger points was Iris coming to the like acceptance or realization that this was her fate. Like she was meant to die.
Yeah.
And like her coming to that realization was one of the better moments at the end of season 3. And then they went and killed the expendable character. And like they probably should have killed off Iris and brought her back another way, comic book style. It's a comic book show. You're going to get comic book moments. You know, and they probably should have done that if you're going to lead up to that moment, or have no one die.
Right.
Actually have Barry save her.
Yeah.
That's there's 2 options there, and there's 2 options they should have done, and they chose the stupid option, which was kill the expendable character.
And the funny thing about it is, Candace Patton, when you go and you hear her speak at like the panels and you hear her interviews and everything, she is so passionate about this character. She's so passionate about being on the show. And the writers do not do her justice. She is such a talented actress. She's totally 100% behind this character and everything that she's doing. And it's very rare that you find an actor or actress who loves their character so much that they just like praise them all over the place everywhere they go. So I just feel really bad that I feel bad when they drop the ball on her, because I think that she's a much better actor than what they're giving her. And so that kind of bugs me out a little bit.
Yeah. Like, I think that's what her acting abilities maybe what's to the writers and just the people on the show is maybe passing Iris as a character.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if it was someone else that was portraying the character and the writing was, you know, like this and the character was being portrayed in a pretty crappy way, then maybe the character could change. But like, funnily enough, Candace being like at the level of acting that she is, she's making the character seem better than she actually is, if that makes sense.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Because she's turning, you know, to use a quote, turning shit into diamonds.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. Monique says, I would not have tuned into season 4 if they had killed her, just like I stopped when they killed off Laurel. Yeah, Monique, that's the thing, is that they build up to this thing that they're not going to do. And I there was no doubt in my mind that Iris was going to make it to season 4. You know what I mean? Like, I knew that was going to happen. But they kept playing around and playing it out and dragging it out and dragging it out and dragging it out. So I knew there was going to be some other way around it. And it really kind of bothered me that it actually did exactly what so many of us fans had predicted, that they were just going to swap her with someone else. Just, I don't know. You missed my last super chat. Which super chat did I miss, Mike? Just ask me again here, Mike, and I'll answer it. Go ahead,
like even with Iris last season, you know how Barry gets trapped in the Speed Force at the end of the season? It could have made him getting trapped in the Speed Force, like him saving Iris, like him and Savitar going at it and they get trapped in the Speed Force after that. Like that could have been what they do. It would have been Barry sacrificing himself literally for Iris.
Yeah.
No. Instead of the weird one where the Speed Force stopped happening and he just walked into the Speed Force.
Somebody was asking about
the much more dramatic ending.
Yeah, somebody was asking about the 4-channel crossover. We actually just had that conversation today. It's going to be on Boba Talk's channel, and I think we are estimating it to be like a couple weeks from now.
I think 2 weeks, like right at the end of the month. 31st of March, I think Boba wants to put it, but it could move a week forward or that date. So
yeah, it's going to be on a Saturday. We know that much. So
yeah.
Let's see. I was waiting for Mike's question. I know he said I missed a super chat. I don't believe I saw it, but if you ask again, I will be glad to answer it. I hate the CW reset button. Cody, it happens all the time. Mike says, wondering if we get an uncensored version of DC TV. So you mean like the Netflix
like
shows?
R-rated.
Yeah, like the mature stuff. I would love something like that. I think the Titans on the DC streaming service will probably be close to that, because the ratings for streaming services, say the ratings, like the TV mature stuff or whatever, it doesn't apply the same way to that as it does to regular television, because they're not appeasing to advertisers. Right. Yeah, exactly. They're not appeasing to advertisers. It's based on the subscription service money. So we'll have to see what they do. But I think that it's going to be I think the stuff we're going to get on that DC All Access is going to be a little bit more mature, possibly. We'll see how far they're going to go. I hope that they will push it a little bit far. Amethyst with the $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Amethyst. Always so supportive. What other live chats do you have? I know pages. So we do our individual live streams, and then we have a 4-channel crossover live stream roughly once a month, give or take, where we talk with Ben from DC TV Show and Boba Talks from his channel. It's like an hour and a half, sort of like this, but with all 4 of us together. And we do more question and answer with audience members, not specifically about like one show. It's just sort of, all over the place. So if you're following me on Twitter or if you subscribe to us here, you will always bring it up the week of that thing. I know Paigey uploads a video the day of, and I usually talk about it on my Monday video. So, yeah. Mike Horan never did a super chat. I rewind the stream. Oh, well.
Ooh, controversial.
He's super chatted me before, so I don't really have a reason to doubt that he would do it. But you better hope that I don't watch this. You better hope that I don't watch this back later and I see that he did super chat me, and you're just saying that to troll.
Quick question in the chat. I don't know if you should answer it as well, Eric.
Yeah.
Are you going to see Tomb Raider?
No.
You're not going to go see it?
I'm not big on video game movies. They usually let me down. So.
Okay.
Are you going to see it?
I don't know. It's too much. It's too important to remember that it's like $6 for me to go to the movies, which is like $4 American. Yeah. So, it's extremely cheap. So
it's like $20 for us here to go see a movie. So I don't think I'm.
Yeah, don't worry. I went to an ArcLight, I think it was, when I was over there, and I was like, well, this is expensive. Because I was like, it was like $20, and like $20 American is like $28 Australian. And that was just for the ticket. And I was like, I could have gone to like almost 5 movies for this, and that was without popcorn and a drink and stuff like that. I was like, Jesus, no wonder no one goes to the movies in America.
Yeah, we have a local cinema here that does like a recliner where you can sit back in the recliners and you can drink beer or alcohol or whatever, and you can get all kinds of like.
Yeah, I think that's what the ArcLight. I think that's what I was at, the ArcLight. Except I didn't realize that. It's just I think every one of their cinemas is like that. That must be why it's so expensive. Yeah, maybe I don't know.
And we also have a cinema cafe here where you can go sit down like at a regular proper table and have dinner and stuff like that. So, but I don't know. It's just like those movies like that don't really. Those are things I'll watch at home. Somebody mentioned that they thought my TV was dying because of what was happening on CW last night. No, it was not my TV. They actually announced it. The funny thing was, at the bottom of the screen, it said that they were experiencing problems. Like they posted that on the TV screen. Now that part came through clear, but the rest of the episode was screwed up. So, where am I? I live in Virginia Beach. I've mentioned that a couple times, I think. In here before. There's a couple of people that do YouTube that live right around the corner from me that they wanted to collab or whatever.
Warstu?
No, not Warstu.
Okay.
Warstu lives, I don't even know where he lives. Somewhere in
lives near Ben. Lives near Ben and Boba.
Yeah, they all live
kind of. It
kinda...
might not be the 4-channel crossover anymore. It might be the 3-channel England crossover soon. Warstu, Boba, and Caramel Talks.
So people were talking about Nate from Legends. I don't have a particular problem with Nate. I just feel like Nate and Ray are redundant characters. They pretty much serve the same space. I know that.
It's basic.
I know they have different skill sets, but in terms of their personalities, they're literally the same type of character.
When scenes when they're not using their skills, they're the same person.
Eric giving out his address. I would not give out my address. That would not happen. Virginia Beach is a big city. But I'm a pretty public figure here anyway. I mean, I work the club scene around here, and everybody kind of knows me, so it's hard for me to. I mean, like all my business is kind of out there. Like if you go to my Instagram and stuff, you would know what city I'm in, so it's not really that big a deal. Okay, we're gonna wrap up things here.
Well, you know what's actually weird?
Go ahead.
I ordered what would they have? I don't know. It's like basically like Uber Eats here. It's like another form of like food delivery.
Yeah.
And the person that delivered it was a subscriber, so they know where I live.
Really? That's funny.
It was the weirdest interaction I've had.
I got something in the mail today that I want to show you guys. So I need to go get it real quick. It's going to take me a second.
Ooh.
So Paigey, you have to talk to the
Hashtag
chat.
unboxing.
Paigey gets...
Okay, live unboxing.
It's not a live unboxing. It is not a live
This
unboxing.
is dangerous.
It's not a live unboxing.
You're dangerous. You're leaving me in charge of the chat.
Paigey is in charge of the
This is
chat. I'll be right
dangerous.
back.
We'll go to the chat here quickly. What have we got? We got... Oh, a lot of the same comments. Nate sucks. Oh, controversial. Just like Felicity and Curtis are the same person too, basically. Yeah, I guess you could say they're the same thing.
I'm back.
How's... Yeah, Amethyst. By the way, my name's not Ben. Just hopefully you understand. I think he came to my stream the other day and said, Ben. I'm like, I'm not Ben. Ben's the DC TV show. He's the caramel shipper.
I knew it. I knew he was going to talk about that. I knew it. Okay, so I got a few things today in the mail, and I forgot I was going to bring this up and show you guys.
It better be a Felicity pop.
It's not a Felicity pop.
Oh.
Okay, so I got the unmasked Black Panther pop, which is kind of cool. This is an exclusive, but the exclusive sticker isn't on it, so I was kind of upset about that because
Very good.
I'm a hipster like that. And then I got 3 of the Infinity War pops. I got the Thanos pop with the Infinity Gauntlet. I got the Iron Man pop.
I thought Thanos was meant to be like one of those big ones, like the 6-inch pops.
No.
Or is there another version?
Well, there might be another version. He's actually the same size as a regular pop.
Oh, okay.
But this is another exclusive one without a sticker on it. So I got gypped on the exclusive stickers. And I got the unmasked Captain America in the dirty suit with the beard from Infinity War. I'm still waiting on the other ones. I literally got one of every character. Am I going to do a contest with the Funkos? You know, I have not done a Funko contest in forever. Would you guys in the chat like for me to do a Funko contest on my Monday videos? Because I know everybody that comes to these probably watches. My Monday videos are usually my best videos. So if you guys are interested, I could do like an Infinity War / DC Funko Pop giveaway. I could do something like that. I know Boba would love this. I got a BB-9E Star Wars pop. He loves Star Wars, so. And I got the BB-8 as well. And I got this from Comic-Con. I got this in the mail from a friend of mine who went to Comic-Con. It is the Captain America, the version with the black bottom half of the suit. And it was a Comic-Con exclusive with the classic top. So, yeah, I got a bunch of pops sitting here next to me. I love Mick. I think we all love Mick. Do a contest and triple your subs. I've done that before. And, yeah, people do generally sub, but then you lose a bunch of them after the contest is over, usually. So, at $5 for the Black Panther pop, I think I would be taking a little bit less than I actually spent on it. Ragman, is he supposed to come back? Well, he was supposed to have an episode at the end of season 5. That never happened. We got the 2 Felicity episodes. Setting up Cade and James, which now that I think about it, they probably decided to do that episode in place of the Ragman episode to set up a villain because they found out they were getting renewed. I think that's probably what happened. So yeah, I don't know if he's coming back or not. Life and Time podcast. Why didn't you celebrate Mad Dog getting put in the ICU? Because the thing was, it was so weird. I think Paigey and I spoke about how dark that scene was. I didn't even know that he was hurt. Like, it seemed like a regular kick to me. But
yeah, it was just like you couldn't see anything that was going on.
so it was so weird. So I don't know.
You know what, I'm gonna have to dip out early. I've got to run downstairs.
Well,
So
I was ready to
bailing
wrap
out
it up
early
anyway, so we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys so much for coming in, and we will we'll catch you guys later on the week. And that's it. Thank you so much, Paigey. Thank you guys for hanging out on all the super chat.
you.
We will see you guys later. Peace.
Farewell.